You know, Eric was going to come with something. He says, Bidenomics. Credit card debt hits record $1 trillion as Americans face increasing cost and financial insecurity. That's a very, very true statement. Now, Eric, let's get into some critical thinking. Eric, and by the way, folks, I am going after Eric's post today because I want to make an important point. And I hope my conservative brethren will listen appropriately. The statement is right. Bidenomics credit card debt hits a record $1 trillion as Americans face increasing costs and financial insecurity. That's not Bidenomics. Bidenomics actually allowed these people to transfer more of their money to these wealthy corporations because otherwise they would just not be able to spend the money that they needed to spend for their groceries. A lot of people are putting groceries on their credit cards right now. They're paying extra bills that they've had to pay on their credit cards. Hell, I had to supplement what I didn't raise for my trip to Chicago for doing my work that had to be done was done on a high price credit card because all credit card interest rates went through the roof as the Federal Reserve started to increase interest rates. Okay, let's talk a little about that. Whose fault is that? Whose fault is inflation? Is it Biden that caused inflation? Let's explore that. Critical thinking. Remember that? Critical thinking is what's important here. If you want to have solutions to problems, if you want to learn the truth, critically think. All right. Inflation is the increase in prices that the consumer or whoever is at whatever stage pays for the product. So eggs went up in price, gasoline went up in price, paper went up in price, flour went up in price. And supposedly, the reason all these prices went up was because of a pandemic that created a supply chain problem. A supply chain problem not created by the average American citizen, but a supply chain problem created by the fat cats and corporations who wanted to maximize their profits by firing American workers and employing foreign workers who would work for slave wages and giving some of the price advantages on the products to the American people, but taking most of the profits in increased executive pay and increased profits for the shareholders. Okay? So the supply chain problem that was partially responsible for the increase in inflation was a direct result of what these geniuses or corporations did. So they caused it. We paid the price in inflation. But let's go a little bit further. Was inflation really ever had to be at 9%? Absolutely not. Why was inflation at 9%? Let's get this right. Why was inflation at 9%? Inflation was at 9%. Half of that 9% inflation was simply corporate greed. Can we quantify that? Can we find a way to figure out if what that statement that I just made is true? That half of the inflation rate was simply corporations saying, we can take more money from you, we will, and we'll pass it on to the shareholders and executive bonuses. The answer to that is yes. And how do we know? Because of if you calculate the amount of money in excess profits each corporation's made after prices had risen, you see that most of that price in the products that you bought went directly into the hands of corporations and therefore shareholders and therefore executives. So therefore, that price increase was a direct transfer of your money to the corporate state, to the executives, and to the shareholders. That is quantifiable. That is qualifiable. Critical thinking, critical thinking, critical thinking. Now, the question is, when it comes to government, we, the middle class, the average middle class citizen, sit back and many times want to blame the opposing governmental force without taking into consideration that they are paid for and owned by the corporatocracy. Oh, however, if we voted appropriately, if we voted for progressives into office, they would then be able to say corporations, no, 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 no. Inflation rate will not be going up because we will make you pay your excess profits right back to the people you stole it from. You see, a petty thief takes your wallet and he takes a few dollars, and if he's caught, he goes to jail, and many times you recover what was stolen. A petty thieving corporation is doing it legally. They are picking your pockets legally, and we allow it because we have our good brothers like Eric Hayes, who comes out and he said, look at what happens with credit cards. Look at what happens with inflation. Bad inflation. As opposed to then saying, no, let's give the people the power to control their destiny by electing the right people that will prevent the corporations from ripping you off, from picking your pocket. Come on, folks. We have to be clear thinking. We have to be critical thinkers. We have to understand who is screwing us. Thank you, Eric, for bringing that statement about the American people having to use more credit, the American people having to pay higher interest. There is no reason for interest rates to have gone up. Zero. Instead of us paying the price to ask the court, they're saying, let's collect more money from the American people so that they don't give it to the corporations, so that the corporations would then say, let's reduce our cost of the products because we want the people to start back buying, and then the interest rates can go down and we get a more look, it's a racket. They make more money as we pay more in interest rates, and they make more money as we have to pay higher prices. Folks, we have to grow up. Folks, we have to be critical thinkers. Folks, we cannot believe the news media that's not telling us the story as it should be told. That's it. Thank you so kindly, Eric, for giving me the opportunity to tell folks the truth.
We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand. We try to find those little nitpicks where it flies above the fray, etc. If you really like these videos that we do, I want to ask a big favor. Please go ahead. Number one, subscribe to our channel, and number two, please join if you can. Thank you so kindly for watching. Keep watching. Please remember to share. We must populate the entire internet with our progressive message, a message that we know is what most Americans say that they want. So help us, please join.